Hello, and welcome to another episode of People con dos grandes razones, People with Pizzazz. An episode in which we're going to be speaking to our global community and hopefully expanding our horizons and reaching further geographies. And remember to join us in a space in which we talk about topics about people, but in this season, we are expanding our horizons and even introducing new not people outside of the people community, if you may, and trying to interview people with different points of view and bringing in a little bit of discomfort. We love to talk about discomfort. We talk about uh, topics that really make people cringe, and I love to do it. I love to make people uncomfortable. So this is a space in which we are able to do so. So don't forget to subscribe at YouTube or Spotify and click on the little bell so it will remind you of every episode that comes out on Thursdays. Or follow me by Instagram in People con dos grandes razones. So, are you ready? Here we go. Buckle up, buttercups. In our last episode, I had talked about how people have gotten frustrated when they have done the right things, chosen the right thing, chosen the right career, the right path, and what they needed to do, and still they didn't feel fulfilled. So this episode is not about personal fulfillment, and it's not about people being tired, and it's not about questioning the meaning of work. I think I did a fucking good job talking about it last time. This episode is more uh, focused towards the organizations and how the organizations are built. Because more and more people are working well, are delivering well and consistently, and they have chosen not to be promoted. And when companies see this, they have no idea what to do with them. Yeah, not emotionally speaking, how to handle those decisions, but more of a structural a view of this. See, most organizations are still designed with a single assumption that growth is hierarchical, that ambition only moves upwards. And the problem is that if you believe that growth means hierarchy and the commitment looks like wanting more power, more visibility, and more people to lead or to manage, then that's when things are not working well, and the companies start, I think, breaking apart because um, they don't know how to react. And when somebody says, I don't want that, the system doesn't know how to read it. It doesn't know how to manage these people. And so this episode is about why that model that we currently have, it's failing organizations. It's not failing the individuals, it's failing as an organization. So if you're listening and you are a leader, an executive, someone involved in talent decisions or talent development, I hope really that this episode makes you really uncomfortable, because the idea is to challenge what we currently have and understand that, and it's not generational. Please, it has nothing to do with it. It is managed, or it has been seen more loudly with them, but it goes beyond that. It goes to a point where people are making very conscious decisions, and we really, as an organization, need to quickly adapt in order to help these people stay. As a company, we want that talent to stay. So that's what I'm going to focus on that structural lack of of innovation that we should be bringing to the table. to try to be clear here because I think that this topic is misunderstood. Working without wanting to be promoted is not laziness, it's not lack of ambition, it's not disengagement, it's not fear of responsibility. It's a conscious decision that people made, and it is a deliberate positioning within the system. And the real issue isn't that people don't want to grow, is that the organizations only see growth in one direction and only one way to grow, up. So when people say, I'm happy here, I don't want anything more, I don't want more responsibilities, I don't want to lead people, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, the system starts to hear, the company starts to hear stagnation, lack of drive, or someone who has peaked, like Peter's principle, and we don't even look any further. We don't go and dig any further. We just assume and label. But when some of these people say this, these people are delivering. These people are performing. They're contributing, and even they are people who are a reference in their subject or in their area. But we have been taught that if someone does not want to grow, it's there's something wrong with them, and probably we're losing them. So it's not a people problem after all this. It's a design problem, and a design that has been there for decades on end. And particularly in Latin America, we have this, I think now it's a misconception that the only way to grow is with more responsibility, with more people reporting to me, and more scope of control and results and responsibilities, and it definitely isn't. Growth comes in so many ways, and I will go into them later on in the episode, but let's start by trying to break that paradigm and try to step out of it and realize that growth comes in so many ways, and we have a very limited, very short-sighted way of looking at it. So let's stop for a minute and start smelling what's cooking in the kitchen, because by the time we react, we will have lost talent, precious time, and engagement. Because remember, when that talent disengages and starts becoming distant from it, we start losing others as well. So hopefully we'll dig deep into this shit, and hopefully you'll get some good insights into maybe what we can do and what we can offer as an organization. Okay, so now let's think about this. For decades, the only way organizations rewarded performance was with, you do well, you get promoted. You're good at your role, you get more scope or more responsibilities. You deliver consistently, let's go and manage people. But here's the thing, leadership is treated as a reward, but it is, or it should be, a distinct capability. And a lot of people need to develop it, or don't even have it, or don't even want it. And people are pushed upwards, not because the organization needs leaders, but because the companies and the system doesn't have any other way, or doesn't know any other way of acknowledging the value that these people bring to the table. So promotion becomes the only fucking way, or the only language uh, of appreciation. And I've seen that many times in companies here in Mexico. And I remember having this conversation. We were in this offsite with the directors, and we were talking about performances. And so we were going through our teams and talking about how they were doing, and what we were seeing as a next step for them, or as a development career, what we were seeing in our talent pool. And I remember I was presenting a case, and one of my guys that I was presenting, I was saying, he is constantly delivering what we expect and above. He loves his job. He is a point of reference. He's outstanding. He's a top talent, if you may. Um, and that's another topic altogether, because between top talent and top development, and the difference, and who's who, that's another fucking podcast. But what I was saying is that this person was good at what he did. And and somebody asked, so what's the next assignment? Should we promote him? And I said, no, because one thing I've always told leaders is, you need to know your people. You need to know what motivates them. You need to know what's their drive. And I had talked to my team, and I knew that this person had absolutely no fucking interest in moving any further. He didn't want more responsibilities. He didn't want people reporting to him. He was doing an excellent fucking job. And he just wanted to be, rewarded, recognized. He wanted his work to be reapplied. He wanted that kind of exposure. That's all he wanted. And one of the biggest motivators for him was time with his family. So he didn't want more shit on his table, so he had to stay longer. He knew what he did, and he did it well. And this director that was asking this, when I said this, he's like, why doesn't he want a promotion? I'm like, well, because he doesn't. And that's it. So why would that bother you? No, what's wrong with him? Doesn't he, like, he has no ambition? And that's when I realized that in every single mind that I've talked to in the past 20 odd years, if somebody does not want a promotion, then there's something wrong with them. I met a person 20 odd years ago, a woman that had been in the company for over 25, 30 years. She was a guru, a Jedi, master. She reported to me. And obviously, I was like, I should be promoting her. Like, she's fucking great. And I started planning all this, and I thought I was going to do, like, the thing. And I talked to her about it, and she's like, you do not fucking move a finger, woman. No, I'm happy where I am. I know what I'm doing. I'm outstanding at my job. I don't need anything else. I'm respected. I'm valued. I'm well paid. I'm like, no touchy. Just leave it as is. That was years ago, decades ago, and I thought, this woman must be nuts. But no, she was full of wisdom, absolute wisdom. And as years went by, and I started meeting more and more people like her, I realized that it's not lack of ambition at all. It's knowing what the fuck you want, and that's rare. That's rare to find. So when people don't follow that kind of language of promotion, 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 we treat them as anomalies, as the weirdos, right? And what we really need to be asking is, what does promotion actually cost? And I'm not talking cost in terms of salary. I'm talking about complexity and political and emotional labor and cognitive load. Many people look at the next level and they're like, I fucking don't want that shit. I I've seen when it's done to my boss. Some of them have paid with their marriages, with their families, with their health, and people see that, and they're like, I don't want to. I don't think the trade-off is, doesn't pay off, and you might not pay me enough for me to actually, give my health to you, or my lose my family, or lose my marriage, or whatever it may be. So it's not a lack of ambition, and we need to get that on our heads. It's that it's enough informed and conscious decision making. That's what we're doing. This is what people are doing, and it's admirable. Now, as a company, let's start thinking on how to retain that talent and not label them. Okay, so here's where things break down even further. You see, commitment is still measured through outdated signals. So you have the desire to move up, willingness to take on more responsibilities, constant availability, visible aspirations. So when somebody doesn't display those signs, then they're reclassified. So and 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 we reclassify them as a company, not explicitly, but very subtly. And listen to me now, like hear me out. These people, when they show this signs, they stop being your hypos. All of a sudden, they're not high potential anymore. They stop being invested in. So we do not look at them again for any possible assignment or different assignment. And they stop being considered altogether. Even though their results, their output, their engagement hasn't changed. It's just that they are not interested to trade in a cost that they've already evaluated for a promotion. And because it goes against what we believe, then that's what we do. We start, pushing them aside, and they stop being part of the elite, the ones we know. So this is how, and I've seen it, and I've been guilty of doing this many times, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes consciously, and frustrated about it because it's somebody that it's not in my team or in my function, and I see it in others doing it to their team. And even though I push back and I try to explain that, it doesn't mean that they're not contributing anymore. They just see it as and they even said to me they're becoming stoppers for others. So if we don't move him, then others can't grow. Ah, damn it, that, like, you're fucking kidding me, man. Like, it's not it's not a black and white kind of a thing. And if the person is there, and okay, we don't have another, the same, this person underneath, others want to grow, and this person doesn't, and they're doing an excellent job. Instead of seeing it as they've become the bottleneck, so what the fuck, so let's move them. If not, nobody else can grow. Again, it's not a people problem, it's a design problem. We have to redesign, not necessarily the position itself. We need to redesign the options that we're offering others who do want to grow, and not see this person as the bottleneck, but see it as a person who is valued, talented, and what are we going to do to keep them there motivated without making them be the bottleneck, which is something that we have no fucking imagination to do. And that's where the problem starts. So this stability by choice, we condemn it, and it becomes, and we label it disengagement. They're not interested anymore. And it leads to one of the most common failures in modern talent system, which is treating horizontal excellence as a dead end. So unless you want to go vertically, if you even consider going horizontally, you're fucked up. You're screwed. You lost your marbles. You're dead. That's it. Se acabó. Nothing more. That's killing us. That's really, really killing us. And I'll tell you why. What are the consequences? So stay tuned. Okay, so what are the consequences? And I'm not gonna go into the feely, touchy, emotional shit. Let's talk about concrete cases. Um, when companies only offer that vertical choice of growth, what we end up having are specialists who become mediocre managers. We get strong individual contributors are pushed into leadership roles they never wanted. We teams suffer because they get really poor leadership. Um, Institutional knowledge walks out the door because they get frustrated, and retention drops. And it doesn't drop because there's a lack of commitment, but because there's nowhere left to go for them. Um, a lot of organizations, when they do these things because you need to reward by promotion, and then you end up with all this bullshit. What ends up happening is that organizations start saying, "Oh, we're losing talent." Fuck no, you're not losing talent, you idiot. What you're doing is you're forcing it out with your lack of architecture and structure and options. That's what you're fucking doing. So it's not that there's a bad culture. It's your lack of vision on smelling what's cooking, my man. So if staying, or let's say if staying means stagnation for the person, and growing means becoming someone you don't want to be, then the only logical option is getting the fuck out of there. Wouldn't you? If you're in a place, and I've seen it sadly enough so many times, that people get promoted, and obviously the first reaction of the person that gets promoted is actually quite, at the beginning, it's kind of like, "Ooh, wow, okay, cool, nice." But you can tell, if you're a good leader, that was not what they wanted. That was not their motivation. And there's some people who are as blunt as I just mentioned before, that they're like fuck off, don't even go there. And there's some people who are not as blunt, but you can tell, if you're a good leader, that is something that has never uh, you know attracted them, that there are other things that they're more interested to them. And because we have no other way, or that the company does not seem to know any other way of recognizing and rewarding, then they go on and they push this promotion, and all the things that I've mentioned before ends up being the result. And it also frustrates others underneath, because when you see this talented person go because of a bad promotion decision, then not only do you lose that, you lose credibility as an organization, and you also lose so much knowledge. And then the people who are left behind stay wondering, would they then promote me? Will they? So what are they going to do? And then you bring talent from outside, and that also makes it frustrating. Causes frustrations within the team. So it's just a big, snowball that gets created when bad decisions are made in terms of promotion, because of your lack of knowledge, your lack of understanding within your team of what makes them and what motivates them. So if I may here bring in, and I've been saying it across the podcast, is you have to know your people. You have to know what moves them, what drives them, what motivates them, and what are their expectations, because you also have people who want to be promoted. They're not ready, and they need to work on so many things. But if you also don't tell them that, then they also get frustrated, because they feel that others are being promoted who don't deserve it, and who they know they don't want it to be promoted. So you really have to be in touch. If there's anything you can take out of this podcast, it's two things. One is, as a leader, you really need to be connected to your team. And as an organization, guys, like, we really need to start thinking differently for these people and stop losing the talent just because of our lack of vision. So those are the two things you take out of this. I nailed it. If not, then put more attention to this shit. So organizations, what have they lacked all this time to create, to design, is we've lacked. I've seen it in some companies. Let me disclaimer. There are companies that have started doing it, and I've worked in some of them. So it's not something that doesn't exist, and I'm not coming up with a new formula for success. But what I'm trying to do here is give a framework of what I've seen more than enough to know that this can help. For example, having parallel career paths, knowing that there's not only one way to grow, but there's different ones. Real experts track. So creating careers in which we develop and we enhance and we motivate people who want to become gurus and experts and point of references. Non-managerial advancements. There's some people who don't like to manage people, and there's some people who shouldn't manage people. And both of them should be identified. And we should have systems of growth and compensation systems that reward both those who manage people and those who don't, the individual contributors. And they should be, if you call them whatever, if you know level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we should have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but for individual contributors and those that manage people. Because in terms of knowledge, okay, we are rewarding here also the management part, but here we are also rewarding that expertise, that depth, that we should have and we should care for. So our reward system should differentiate in that respect. So currently everything tends to point upwards, and that's where we're missing out. So when somebody stops climbing the ladder, they're treated as if they stop growing when there are other options. We have the people who can keep on growing by learning in other assignments, in other locations, in other geographies. People who are in the corporate world, and we can then give them an assignment in a plant, in a factory, or an experience in another function, or a particular project, and lead a project in which they understand and learn from others. So there's so many other ways of developing and helping people grow that is not necessarily upwards. So we have to start looking sideways, horizontally, and see what else there is there that we can offer. People who can become um, mentors, not hierarchically speaking, because they have become experts in their area and therefore can, mentor others. Consistency over volatility. I was in a company that they they understood that there are people who reach a level in which they don't want to go any further, or we can see that they're not capable of, but we're focusing more on those who don't want to. And these people had become such experts, and they give a broader impact in what they know and what they do. And they have become those teachers, those masters that the new generations coming through um, went through their hands, and they always came back to their teachers, to their mentors, to their coaches, or whatever they want to refer them to. And there was a point in this company where they started implementing a system of ratings, of evaluation, in which they had 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. And the ones who were in 3 were the low performers. But it was forced. So we had to have yes or yes, a certain percent of our population at level 3. So at the beginning, it wasn't so difficult because we did have a little bit of an overpopulation, if you may. The problem was when, after a few years, you had cleaned the house, but you still had to, force the distribution. And that's where, the shit hit the fan, because what you wanted to do, or what people started doing, was, well, you had your top talents, those water walkers, climbers who are growing and being promoted every 2 months. And then you have those people who have all this in-depth knowledge, but are there. And yes, they're expensive because they've been there so many years, but you're you're paying for that experience. So it's not that they're expensive, you're paying for what their value is. But they started the distortion of that. And so they started getting rid of those people. And what happened is you lost the knowledge. So you didn't have that layer of expertise to train those coming through. So we started having an impact in the business itself, in the results. And when when we did the deep root cause analysis of what the fuck was happening, we realized that, and it was too late. It was too late. So we started having to, again, started creating that know-how. It's very frustrating because as a company, you suffer from those mistakes. But so start listening to this, and start looking around your organization and realizing if this is something that is actually happening and you're lacking these options in order to help and grow. Ask them. That is often the best way to go about this. Don't start trying to invent the wheel. Just ask them, what motivates you, what's growth for you, what does it mean, and how can I give it. And when you start asking your population, you would understand that they will give you the answer to what it's needed in order to retain the talent. So don't suffer about what is it, Babi, give me more ideas. Listen, go and ask, and believe me, they will give you the answer. And then prioritize and move forward. There are so many other ways of growth that we haven't looked at, and that they're there, and we just have to go and take the dive, plunge into it, buddies. Let's do it, man. Let me summarize the episode for you and try to put it in a nutshell. Working without wanting to be promoted is not the fucking issue. I think that's pretty clear. The issue is that organizations only recognize one form of ambition, and that is going up, and we ignore the rest. Some of us didn't even know there was a rest. So when companies design careers in a single definition of growth, what ends up happening is we end up with mediocre leadership, with unnecessary burnout, with unnecessary exits, and a whole bunch of frustrated people. And this is not about lowering our standards. It's about updating our systems. It's about being creative. It's about understanding our population. It's about understanding the needs of our people, of our talent, listening to them. Because as long as promotion is the only path that is the legit way to go, it's the way to go, organization will keep on losing people who want to contribute, but that they don't want to change and be somebody else in order to do so. So if your organization only values people that want to move up, then do not be surprised if talent walks out the door. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, then recommend it to your enemies. If you loved it, give me a 5-star. And I'll see you next Thursday. Hope you liked it. Enjoy it. Have a great week. Bye.
Si te gustó el episodio, compártelo por WhatsApp o a Link Pipo con 2 grandes razones, y así lograr que más gente se entere del contenido. Suscríbete en Spotify y activa las notificaciones. O en YouTube, dale a la campanita para enterarte de todos los episodios de estreno y dale una calificación de 5 estrellas para que más gente pueda encontrarlo. Sígueme en Instagram, People con dos grandes razones, y platícame qué temas te gustaría escuchar.